So we are with Katie from United States, Jana from South Africa, Eileen from United States, Alessandro from Italy, living in UK, and Livia from Romania, living in UK also. We are in Spirit Mind Retreat Center, and it is July 2018. And we would like to do a short talk about what did you learn this week. Would you like to start, Pete?
What I learned this week. So this week I learned a lot about my different patterns of behavior and how they play out in my relationship and friendships. We did a few workshops, and I think the one that resonated with me the most was the finding your shadow, which basically the idea behind it is that any people that really irritate you, really bother you, or you really hate them, those characteristics that are bothering you are really things that you're projecting onto that person because you have them within yourself and you don't, really want to share it in the open. And I feel like I learned a lot about myself through that exercise, and then through taking the ayahuasca later that night revealed a lot. And I feel like I learned how to silence my mind a bit more and get deeper into my meditation practice.
Alessandro, when you come, you didn't believe in all this kind of work.
I didn't believe. I was a bit skeptical,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to believe because of course I was here. So I work in finance in London, and it's a field that lends itself to overly rational people, and perhaps creates a completely unjustified sense of superiority or of arrogance in people. In some people, I don't want to stereotype, but I think I had some of that, and you don't realize actually. You build it up over time, and you don't realize it's there, and you think, "Oh, I'm fine. Like I'm quite nice." But actually, you realize that this thing is built up. And one of the things that ayahuasca does, and that is particularly the medicine does, is it really dissolves the ego, and that was one of the big takeaways for me. You really notice how many of the things you do are just done to attract attention or to make yourself feel good or to feel superior. And I think that's one of the big insights. But then a lot of it comes down to the workshops, absolutely, because you get all these meanings and all these messages, and the workshops really help you to interpret them. And I think one of the things you said is some people come here for the workshops, and I think it sounds strange because it's called Spirit Vine Ayahuasca Retreat, but I totally see why someone would come here just for the workshops.
Yeah, some people cannot stop taking medication.
Yeah. And the group dynamic is very powerful, and you go straight to the point, which is also quite
we
good.
have only 9 days.
Yeah, but it's good because I think when a message is delivered more directly, it kind of shocks you a bit, but it's effective.
It's effective.
Yeah.
And what was the most important thing you learned this week?
I think so. The ego dissolution for sure. I called it an ego assassination, but it's more gentle than that. It's really a dissolution. And actually, the whole thing about the drug, the things you read about the ayahuasca is a bit overstated normally because people focus on the vomiting and the violence, and actually, it's a very gentle medicine, and you're in control all the time. Well, I found it was quite a gentle but even after the vomiting, it's a very gentle substance, and you're in control all the
And
time.
the vomiting is a relief.
It's a relief, and it's only a tiny moment of
Yeah,
a 5 or 6 hour
Exactly.
journey, right? So
And if you do, because none of us did the first night. So.
Yeah.
To try and condense what I learned into a few sentences is virtually impossible because I learned so much. Genuinely, I learned so much. What was quite incredible was the amount of truly real aha moments I had. That just literally blew my mind when everything kind of sinks into place like a Tetris game, just slots. Dunk, 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 dunk. For example, about the savior and the guilty, why I feel guilty about South Africa, etc. It was quite a profound experience, and I had many of those.
Aileen, what brought you here?
Because I wanted to experience the ayahuasca in a really safe environment and not just experience it to have the trip. I wanted to learn tools to know what to do with these messages and what I was going to get from ayahuasca.
You never drank ayahuasca before?
No, I've never, and I was scared. I was scared. But when I searched and searched for about 6 months, probably even longer, but when I found Spirit Vine, it just resonated. I knew, I felt it straight away. It was almost like it was working already for me. I wasn't equipped to handle this experience really, emotionally, mentally. But thanks to the workshops, you really gave us these tools that we're going to have for the rest of our lives. The insights to releasing negative spirits or whatever's trapped in us. I call it the blocked chakras. And I just can't say enough of how wonderful the whole experience, and it's very fluid. Everything works beautifully. And the weather has just been a gift as well. Rain at night, beautiful in the day. I love the yoga, the massages, swimming in the pond.
What was the most profound insight you had?
The most profound was actually the last day when we did the day ceremony. And that to me was the most profound because I was asking, it completely turned everything around. That I was asking for something else to show me for forgiveness, let me really feel forgiveness. And it just, it went so deep to, it was all about my ego. And that was the most profound as far as the experience. But I have to say, the just knowing what you've taught us, the ability to take those steps, even public speaking, that you shared with Tracy, that was insane to me. That was magical, and I'm going to try it when I get home, even though it wasn't for me. So in the group sessions, I learned so much because every one of us had so many different things going on with each experience that you can't comprehend it. You can't remember every single thing. And I think you said something about that as well. Our brains somehow can't remember everything.
Yeah.
But then in workshop, when everyone was sharing and talking, you're like, oh, okay. And then you'd give the tools or advice, and it was fantastic because it wasn't just for ourselves, it was for everyone else. And I felt like we were really together, this group. It was magical. And I thank you.
Livia,
Yes.
what brought you here?
I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and I have a friend who came here 3 times, and he spoke very highly of this place. But I never felt the moment was right. And this year I went through a personal crisis moment when I was questioning everything on a personal level and work level. And then I just felt like I'm losing my center. So I decided that it is the right time, and I decided to come here. And it was incredible. Not in the way I expected. It was completely the opposite.
What did you expect it, and what you had?
I expected something slightly magical, which does not have to do with me, and it has to do with spirits inspiring me. And I discovered spirits which helped me be a better version of myself. It had. I discovered more about myself than I thought I would.
You are ready to live your better version.
I think so. I think it's work in progress. I remembered some things I never thought I knew.
So you recovered a lost memory.
I recovered some lost memories, which I didn't accept in the beginning because I think the power of the rational mind is great. But I decided that it's okay to trust the spiritual side of me to come up and be exposed, and trusting myself was the one thing I took out of this much more than before. And also the fact that it was a group setting was incredible, because I learned so much from other people's experiences, and we are very similar, and we all have sides of each other, and none of us is completely independent. And I think that interconnectedness makes you feel even more secure in your journey in the world.
Yeah.
You also are working in finances.
Yes, me too.
So I imagine it's not very common to talk about these things.
No, I don't. Yeah, it's not very common, and people are very traditional. But I've always had an interest in the magical side of life. So for me, it's not that strange. But yes, it's true that the environment I work in is very Cartesian, and I don't think that people are always ready to get out of their frame of thinking. But we all have the duty to evolve, and I think it doesn't matter what you do. We all have to do it.
Yeah, but
We
we
owe it
need
to
to be
ourselves.
open.
We need to
look
be
for
open,
something
and we need to want
different.
it. Because I was in this environment, and I always had this inclination towards the more spiritual side of life, but I wasn't ready for it. And now that everything converged, and it was great.
Thank you. When you come here, you thought that ayahuasca was a drug.
Yeah, I mean, that I think is semantics. I think you can call it drug, you can call it medicine, you can call it whatever you want. I think it induces an altered state. But the problem is that drug has a negative meaning, and when I say it, I don't mean it in a negative way. It's just it induces an altered state. But it is very, very effective and very useful altered state, because it does amplify your ego as well. So one of my other experiences, the second experience, was to really amplify your ego. So one of my things was that I wanted to discover the more emotional, raw side of myself, which have been repressing for a long time, and it did it. But it did it in a completely ego-centric way. I mean, I was the king of the world in that journey. Which is nice. Then you realize the purpose of why I did it that way, because you also need to do it.
For every person who drinks ayahuasca, or you inflate your ego or you transcend your ego. The idea is to transcend the ego so your world become bigger. That is your case. You were a septic, and now I imagine your world is bigger. And Kathy, you've been here before.
Yeah.
What made you come back?
So this is my third time here. And the first time I came here, I had just a very profound experience, and the ayahuasca journeys and the workshops and the people that I met here all were part of me making new choices in my life, because I was at a bit of a, I don't know if you could call it maybe a crossroads. I was just sort of backpacking. I didn't know where I wanted to live or what I wanted to do with my life. I was just sort of wandering and discovering. And after I left Brazil, I got an apartment in New Orleans, and I stopped drinking, and I started meditating, and I was just living my life in a different way. And I think what I realized too, those first two times that I came here, was that there was so much to learn. There was such a vastness about everything, about myself, about insights that I didn't know could be had. And so once I kind of got a little glimpse of that, I realized, I could just keep coming back, and there could never be an end to what you can learn, for anyone. I don't think that there's a stopping point. Like, I came here once and I got it all done. So there's always more you can do to grow as a person, and it feels good. It's exciting. It feels really good to learn something about yourself and have it click, and then implement it, because it's not just about feeling it in the moment when you take ayahuasca. It's about taking that information and integrating it into your life, and watching your life change in positive ways. So that's why I came back.
Yeah, now coming back is applying everything in your everyday life.
Yeah. Traveling by myself was scary. you know, coming into a world that I didn't know. So that was kind of hard for me. But I would come back here again and again and again by myself. From the minute I left LA, you were by my side. You took my hand, and from the airport, you had drivers waiting for us and taxis. It was perfect.
Yeah, no, we are sure that somebody is waiting for you in Ileus Airport to bring you here.
Yeah,
Especially some people never travel to
right,
South America,
right.
and a lot of people are afraid, oh, South America.
Yeah,
But it's
but
okay.
it wasn't. It was literally, you know, it doesn't matter whether I was at LAX.
Mhm.
I just came out of an airport and they were there. So, you know, when you're in the air flying, it doesn't matter where you're going. But to come here and just know that safety was it was truly just so reassuring, and immediately it just
Yeah,
felt good.
it's very
Felt
safe,
right.
and also Itacare, the town near here, is pretty friendly. There are
Yes.
a lot of hotels,
Yeah.
restaurants,
Yep.
vegan and vegetarian food, very good.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's easy.
Yeah.
You drank ayahuasca before coming here,
Yeah.
and how was your experience?
Look, ayahuasca is a powerful medicine. It's the most intelligent medicinal plant I have ever come across. So I certainly had incredible experiences, and so that's why I've always wanted to further my ayahuasca journeys. And although I certainly took wonderful things out of the retreats back in South Africa, there's certainly no support system for interpreting your messages, what you may have learned, connecting the dots together. Sometimes you can open up stuff, and it can leave you very raw and vulnerable, and you need to be able to talk that through with someone and figure it out. And so, you know, firstly, it's 9 days as opposed to just a weekend, and you need the full 9 days. You know, you can hear by the feedback last night that some people feel they need more. You know, literally, you go there, you drink ayahuasca. Yeah, you can share, but it's not done in a very structured way. So not really anyone shares, and then you drink ayahuasca the next night, and then it's Sunday, and then you go home.
It's very quick.
You know.
So you're a professional photographer.
Yeah.
For you must be very important, beauty. So what do you think about this center?
Yeah, it's incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly beautiful. I mean, I'm just completely blown away by Brazil. The energy of the Brazilian people, the energy of the Brazilian jungle, the beaches are so beautiful. There's just such a different energy here. I deeply connect with it very much. So I've traveled the world extensively because of my photography, and I've been to many countries, you know, cool countries, you know, Caribbean, Lebanon, Poland, most of Europe, well, all of Europe. You know, I live in South Africa, the States, but nothing has kind of grabbed me as much as Brazil. So
It was your first time in Brazil.
Yeah. I can completely understand why you chose Brazil.
Well, I travel a lot before I decide where. Even in Brazil, I travel a lot, and I found the right piece of coast in the Atlantic, forest, which is 5 minutes away from the best beaches.
The beaches are really incredible.
And there is no one on it.
Yeah.
They're empty.
Which is
Amazing.
different from Europe. Hey, Europe, you have to take a really small towel.
Yeah, and you
like
have to fit in
this much space.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you.